Up until now, the Teioelis has been a mystery wrapped in terror. We've seen it rip out eyes, burrow into sockets, and puppet its hosts like grotesque marionettes. First with a cat, then with a sheep. To most characters, it looked like nothing more than a parasite, a biological weapon at best. Dangerous, yes, but mindless. Something to fear, not something to understand. But by the end of the latest episode, that illusion shattered. Boy Kavalier didn't just see a parasite, he saw a mind. He leaned in close to that sheep, scrawled 3.14 on his palm, and asked a question designed to separate instinct from intelligence. What comes next? And when the sheep, guided by the thing inside its eye, tapped out the next digits of pi, the entire story flipped. In that instant, the Teioelis proved it wasn't just reacting, it was reasoning. And Boy's reaction wasn't horror, it was fascination. For him, this wasn't the end of the mystery, it was the beginning of an experiment. He wanted to know what would happen if it was placed inside a human. Now, why does that matter? Because what makes intelligence terrifying isn't size or strength, it's agency. A parasite with instincts is predictable. A parasite that can solve problems, that can reason, that can respond to abstract symbols. That's a parasite with choices. And once you realize the Teioelis has choices, the idea of moving it into a human body is no longer nightmare fuel. It's a near certainty with consequences that could unravel everything. And Boy Kavalier, he's exactly the kind of man to make that choice. Throughout the season, he's been portrayed as someone who values discovery above ethics, power above morality. When Adam Ines warns him not to move it into a person, Boy doesn't hear danger, he hears opportunity. His eyes light up. This is his chance to push beyond the edge, to prove something no one else has dared. He doesn't see a risk, he sees the ultimate experiment. So what do we actually know about this thing he's toying with? The Teioelis doesn't just perch in a host's eye, it takes over. We've seen it rip out the original eye, embed itself into the socket, and lace its tendrils into nerves. Once inside, it can walk the host, gesture with its limbs, and turn an animal's body into a puppet. It sees through its own alien lens, replacing vision with something wholly unnatural. And now, with the math test, we know it can think, it can solve, it can reason. That's not instinct, that's cognition, and yet, we still haven't seen it inhabit a human long term. We've only had flashes, moments of contact, moments of terror, but never a stable integration. That's the line Boy is about to cross. The question is, who does he use? He could sacrifice a soldier, but that weakens his own power base. He could test it on a nameless prisoner, but that's narratively safe. And this show has never gone for safe, which leaves us with one option that keeps resurfacing. Joe, Wendy's brother. Joe is already in the thick of it. He's been present in Neverland's chaos, pulled into rescue attempts, always close enough to stumble into danger. That makes him logistically vulnerable. He's a medic, strong enough to withstand trauma, and that gives Boy a justification. Here's a man who might survive long enough to deliver data, but above all, Joe offers the show exactly what it craves: emotional devastation. Because if Wendy's brother becomes the host, her entire arc twists into tragedy. Suddenly, it's not about survival, it's about whether she can save him or whether she'll have to destroy him. Now imagine how the series would stage it. Boy's lab, cold and clinical. Joe strapped to a table, sedated but still fighting. The Teioelis extracted from the sheep, writhing and alien, ready for insertion. The scalpel descends. His eye is removed. The parasite slips into the socket, nestling against his optic nerve. At first, he looks normal. He blinks. He speaks. But then it begins. Strange pauses before his answers. Odd rhythms in his movements. A subtle tapping, echoing the sheep's hoof. And then, before anyone can deny it, Joe starts doing things that are not his own. Because of that pi test, we know the Teioelis can understand symbols, follow instructions, even be trained. Boy would see this as the crown jewel, a human vessel carrying an alien intelligence, controllable and weaponized. weaponized. But the real danger? It may not stop at control. The T Ocellus might merge with Joe's cognition, using his human knowledge to accelerate its own evolution. Suddenly, we don't just have a parasite in a body, we have a hybrid mind, alien reasoning fused with human ingenuity, and that is a nightmare. Of course, there are counter-arguments. Maybe the show will subvert expectations and choose a different host. Maybe a human body can't sustain long-term integration, and Joe doesn't survive the attempt. Maybe this is all misdirection, a bait and switch before a bigger twist. But the narrative breadcrumbs are too precise to ignore. Joe is consistently placed near danger. He is consistently framed in relation to Wendy, and Boy has made it clear that he wants a human subject. The most devastating, most dramatic, most narratively potent choice is Joe. And if Boy succeeds, everything changes. The moment a human carries the T Ocellus successfully, the door opens to weaponization. Imagine sleeper agents in the population, indistinguishable until the parasite reveals itself. Soldiers, spies, even leaders walking around with alien intelligence inside their skulls. And for Wendy, the stakes are no longer abstract. Her brother is gone, twisted into something unrecognizable. Does she try to pull him back? Or does she end him before the thing inside takes full control? So here's the case. The pie test proved intelligence. Boy made it clear he wants a human host. Joe is accessible, survivable, and devastating to Wendy's arc. Put all that together and the writing is on the wall. The next episodes could force Wendy into the hardest choice of her life, whether to save her brother or to stop him before he becomes something the world can't fight. What do you think? Is Joe the target, or does Boy have an even darker plan in motion? Drop your theories in the comments. Let me know if you caught the same signals I did, and subscribe. Because if Joe does become the host, we'll be here to break down every frame of the fallout.